Welcome to the No BS Short-Term Rental Podcast, an unfiltered look into the global vacation and short-term rental industry.
I'm Mateo Bradford.
And I'm John Stokinger.
And this is our podcast. We bring the right people to the table at the right time, giving you an inside view and take on the short-term rental industry like no other podcast can.
More Mateo, another episode. Here we go. Season 2, episode 17? 17?
Yeah, this year is moving.
And we are
doing
coming
great.
up to
How are you?
a year anniversary is coming up next month. I mean, we 47 episodes today so far. Yeah, I just can't believe this journey so far. Pun intended. Unintendedly, but now intended. And you'll understand what we're getting to. Yeah. But this has been pretty exciting. How's your week been?
Oh, it was nice. Great week. It was actually pretty cool. It was out in Austin, Anthony's retirement ceremony. Last on Friday. So it was the first time in Austin, but things are good, brother. No real complaints.
Keeping it weird in Austin with Anthony.
Though. I mean, I'm from Portland, so keeping it weird is relative.
True.
I don't know if there's I think there's levels to the keeping it weird thing. But no, Austin was cool, man. I really dug the city, dug the vibe, love what was going on out there. So definitely shout out to Austin.
Yeah, and shout out to our good friend Anthony. 22 years, active Marine officer, well deserved, and congrats to I'm excited to see what you and he do with that East moving forward now that he can put all of his time and effort to it. So shout out to Anthony and his retirement.
Shout out to Anthony, definitely.
With that, and to the pun that I didn't intend, but I'm going to say I intended, we want to go ahead and introduce today's guest, the CEO of Jurny, Mr. Luca Zambello. Luca, thanks so much for joining us today. And did I murder your last name, or did I pronounce it correctly?
Actually, you did pretty well.
Okay, good.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I usually before we hit record, I'm like, hey, how do I pronounce? I want to make sure I'm pronouncing this right, and I'm like shooting from the hip today. So I appreciate you joining us. Great
to have you on, man.
This is exciting. Jurny. It was interesting because I was thinking about how I was exposed to Jurny, and it was probably a couple of years ago, and I don't even know what if I was searching up something in Google, but I went to your website, and like the video that plays on the that upper header there on the website was super intriguing to me, and I'm like, oh shit, this is like, wow, this seems pretty like tech forward. At the time, this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. I think maybe it was like right when you came out with your new website. And I was intrigued back then. I was with Track or whatever company I was working with at the time. But it's kind of exciting to see your journey. I'm going to stop doing that, I promise, to see, how you've gone from where you are, and how you got started in this into where you are today and where you're going. Chat about Jurny, chat about yourself. Like, how do you come into the space and why the way you have?
Yeah, well, actually pretty randomly, believe it or not. So I'm originally from Italy. I was born and raised there. I moved to US when I was 21. I came here to study, just wanted to figure out ways to make a little money, being kind of entrepreneur my whole life. And one of the first things I did while I was in school, I actually started promoting clubs here in LA and Hollywood, and was just temporary thing, trying to figure things out and then meet people, right? And at one point, a client was asking me to rent out a villa for an event, and this was like I think almost 11 years ago. And super early on, VRBO was not that big, and Airbnb really just started. Not everybody knew what Airbnb was back then. And I remember just, looking online for luxury villas for rent, and I couldn't find anything. But I found a villa through like a broker, and I realized that it was like a word of mouth type of business, and it was huge in LA. Right. But there was nothing done online. And so I actually at the time launched a website. It was called houseentallosangeles.com. And on the first year, and I was just doing Google AdWords of luxury villas in LA. And basically we were kind of like brokering deals for luxury villas. It was a short-lived business, but for the first 12 months, we did like $1.2 million.
Oh shit!
In revenues, which was pretty cool, and it just kind of made me realize that there was like a potentially massive opportunities in this space. It got quickly saturated. I don't know if you remember, there was a company like called Luxury Retreat, and then like them, there was like many others that just came into the space and just flooded. And just made it a lot less profitable for me to do that. But once I was in it, I kind of stayed in it, and from there I pivoted into a property management company. And since then, basically, I've been in the space. And when I started running a property management company, we got up to like a few hundred properties under management, and realized that technology was a big impediment to scale this business. And so 4 years ago, decided to launch a company to fix this problem called Jurny.
So technology is what is holding you back, or is holding everyone back then. But it was, my assumption, it was more than that too, especially in LA. Let's talk, were regulations holding you back as well? Were, different things like that? Or is that like a more new thing? Can we chat about that specifically now? Because this has started in LA for you, and but it's expanded. So can we talk about like the other thing, other than tech, what are some of the obstacles that you've had to come and overcome?
Yeah, definitely regulations was somewhat of an obstacle. But again, my obsession has always been scale. So we realized at the time that urban markets and multi-units was the most scalable thing you could have done, because it was the most similar to a hotel. And so when you have a concentration of multiple units in a single building, it's a lot easier to manage. We actually realized that managing a luxury villa versus managing like 40 units in a single building, it almost required the same amount of effort in terms of management. And so we realized that, number one, that was a point. Two, we realized that obviously regulations were a problem. So we immediately moved to markets where we thought that regulation were going to play in our favor. So we moved to Dallas and Nashville, and we moved out of LA kind of like almost immediately, the second that we realized that regulations were, before everybody else. Everybody else stayed, and then 3 years later, it got really bad.
Yeah.
I'm a forward-looking person. I like to look 3 to 10 years ahead. so I was like, there's no reason for me to build a management company here in LA, because eventually it's probably not going to head in the right direction. So yeah, definitely regulations. And then one of the things that I realized also that how to overcome this in the longer term is to get buildings that they're either they have some type of license specifically that you're going to be allowed to do short-term rentals forever, or even hotel license. So the third market we launched was Miami back then, when we were a management company. And in Miami, we got, straight up licensed hotel and managed them as short-term rentals. One of the other things that we figure out, actually, even with regulation, is that our concept of what we were building, it was actually working for hotels as well. So we started managing hotels as well, because from a management company, basically, when we launched Jurny, we said, hey, let's utilize this management company to really start building this product so that we can sell it to other management companies. But the best products, I mean, if you're building a tech platform, really, like, if you want to know what your customer needs, you need to be your own customer first, in my opinion. Yeah. And that's what we decided to do. And so we actually built a platform that works for both hotels and short-term rentals. And we strongly believe that the two spaces are slowly merging into a single space.
No, it's super fascinating, because this is my daily life right now, right? So I manage a small boutique hotel in Portland, but I run it like short-term rentals. And so like everything you're saying is really resonating. And a lot of the questions I was going to have for you were going right along that line. It's like, technology can be the great equalizer, or the lack of technology can be an incredible impediment to, success in scaling your business. And so came in on the tech side of the business and, thought I knew what managers went through and did. And, just from my interactions with them and hearing it kind of first person from them. But it's completely pales in comparison to having to go through these things and deal with these issues and struggle through the technology or lack thereof and try and run a business at the same time. And it's incredibly hard. So I think, kudos to you for having that experience. I'm pretty sure that's what made your success possible, is really having that tangible experience to take and build and problem solve using that technology moving forward. So that goes like, what can the industry learn from that experience, right? Because we have an industry full of PMS platforms that and other budding technology that's all kind of flooding, right, our industry. And for the time that you've been in it, I've been in it less than you, I've seen this just increase exponentially. We've seen some filter out, but where is this going? Like, where is this going? Like, how does this get better?
I love this question.
How do you build a better product that actually is based on what, the manager's needs and needs for their business?
Yeah, I love this question. And I think the answer is consolidation. I think it is going to be chaos for a little bit. And then eventually things are going to start cleaning up. Our goal was to exactly do that. I see this is very common whenever there's a brand new industry that this happens. You have a million service providers, like .com. There's a million companies that they say they did so many different things, but very few of them actually had a real value prop, right? Or a sustainable business. I think it's very similar to what's happening right now in the short-term rental space and the hotel space. They're just not being disrupted. I mean, yes, OTAs have disrupted a little bit. They've disrupted distributions and, travel agencies, but they have not really disrupted like how hotels are managed, how like hospitality is managed in general. And I think we are just kind of like right now on the cusp of where there's going to be some major players that are going to emerge and they're going to become the go-to players. One of the main things that we realized was to do consolidations. So the whole concept of building Jurny is, I realized this. If you're an operator today, well, number one, I talked to, I don't know, a few thousand operators, I think by now. And there are things that I started realizing more and more is even hotels owners and short-term rental owners, operators, more and more people have CTOs. I'm like, are we in the hospitality industry or are we in the tech industry? Why are people having CTOs left and right? And the reality is because it's extremely complicated. If you want to automate your entire operation today, it's extremely complicated. And most PMSs today, in my opinion, are very similar to DOS in early ages of computers. And you have to kind of be a programmer to know how to use it.
Yeah, and I came for 2 years at Track.
John and I,
I sold a lot of Track software, and I get it. It's definitely complicated. And how do you go ahead and make it so? And and it's interesting to like when I sold Track, when I talked to property management companies that had say 200, 300 units and or more, 500, 600 units, and they're going, we're just going to go ahead and we're building this out. This is our own proprietary software. I'm like, and my rebuttal to that was, well, why are you a tech company or are you a property management company? Let us go ahead and build it for you. But to your point, I totally get it. The software is still very complex and it's still very, it's getting better. And there are certain PMS software providers that are doing a better job and lack of better term, dumbing it down for the users and making it easier. And certain, I guess, certain property management companies need a tech stack that is more robust because they have more robust, complex, operations. Maybe they're in multiple states, maybe they're in multiple, accounting specifically seems to be a huge issue that certain, say, smaller, property managers don't necessarily run into that aren't. I don't. It's just it's complex. So
Yeah, and I think the problem is that everybody's looking at it from different standpoints, and it's kind of the problem that these PMSs are finding themselves of wanting to do too many things, and they become mediocres at many things instead of being great at some core things, in my opinion. Well, I tell you what we thought of Jurny, and we realized that the industry needed the MacBook Pro of the situation where you buy the laptop. If you're someone who has, I say like a normal job, even an entrepreneurial job, and you're not a programmer, very likely you buy a PC or a MacBook Pro, but a MacBook Pro is ready to go. You turn it on, you just put your password in your email, you just do your basic things, and you're ready to run immediately, right? And that's missing in our industry. And that's really what our mission is. And what we believe we already built was this turnkey. And we're in the process of like constantly making it better, right? It's infinite. Like, like Apple never stops at making their system better and more accessible and more intuitive. We're doing the exact same thing. And our idea was, why integrating with like 50 pricing systems when the top one are 2 or 3, and very likely if I focus with just a single partner, I actually can create a really strong partnership and make that pricing system work better than any other pricing system and any other PMS.
Right. So what is Jurny today, Luca? Is it a PMS? Is it a, today we know your journey to here. What is Jurny for our listeners?
We call it MOS, Management Operating System, because a PMS is so limiting. Again, it's like a small component that you need in order to have many other components to work. But today, as an operator, you need a pricing system. You need a way to screen your guests. You need a way to have a guest mobile app. You need a way to have remote access control, right? How do you control the entire access system of a building over a single family home, right? How do you control smart thermostat? How do you control your hubs? How do you overview what's happening with your noise aware or minute, right? All of this is a complex system. Your accounting, everything you need right now is completely scattered. Even if you use one of the best PMSs, there are public API integrations. That means you're not going to see everything. Not everything is going to flow through your PMS, right? It's not a real integration. So we actually create every single integration we built is a vertically integrated integration. So even if you're working on pricing, for example, we work with Wheelhouse, but you don't see Wheelhouse interface. You see Jurny's interface, or you see some of the Wheelhouse interfaces into the Jurny dashboard.
So everything you're using, you're white labeling inside the platform.
And it's not so much about the white labeling; it's about having it in a single place.
Yep. And isn't that what every property manager asks for? That's what every property manager asks for, right?
Exactly.
One, to have everything, right? Like I love the MacBook analogy. It's, you open it up, it's ready to go. It has everything you need right there, ready to go. You don't have to download a driver. You don't have to do anything. Great example.
That is exactly it. You don't have to create a different login for every account. You don't have to get the integration done. Also, I think anyone who has done any type of integration with a PMS, they have heard this story. When there's a bug, you never know whose fault it is.
Right. The finger pointing game.
There's a finger pointing game all the time. Oh, it's because of that. It's because their integration is not good. All of that needs to be gone. But no operator needs to focus on operating their business, scaling their business, creating guest experiences. Like, it's such a waste of time, spending time to make these systems work. They need to be companies that need to make a system work perfectly and flawlessly so that operators can focus on what they can do best.
How do you do that in a culture, though, where you can't speak the common language? Hotels did it, right? Like, hotels have a common API language for at least them to work with across the board. We can't do that in short-term rentals. I think there's a movement that Steve and a bunch of others are pushing forward to kind of get this to happen, but companies are digging in. Like, there's proprietary information. It's kind of, it's the Apple versus PC. Like, they don't want to open it up for whatever reasons that those companies have, right, wrong, or indifferent. But isn't that the big impediment? Like nobody wants to open up a common code so that things could work seamlessly and work together and share that information.
I think that's a part of the problem. I think the major problem is that there is this all non-trusting relationship, is because, again, a PMS needs to work with your other 15 competitors.
Right.
That's what we fixed at Jurny. We said, we selected the best of a vendor, and we said, listen, you're the best. So because of that, we are going to exclusively only work with you as long as you meet these parameters and as long as our customers are happy. And then we are going to build a native integration. We're going to be building something that other people have not yet experienced before. And we're going to be putting you part of our package. So in my opinion, we fixed that problem. In my opinion, we are that system, that single system. And we're for sure the first, but we're for sure not the last.
Who's your customer, Luca, though? Like who is, your target demographic? Like who are you going after? Like
anywhere from we say only professional operators. So if you're managing anywhere 5 to 10 plus units, whether you're managing a hotel or a short-term rental, our platform is built for both. It was originally built for commercial type of real estate, so like hotels with multiple access systems. If you see it from our app, like a guest can control every single door in a building, and I can have a unique code to open every single door in that building that expires when the reservation expires, including pool doors, including main access system, including garage, anything. So we have that. That's the first actually piece of technology we built. We built, I think, the best in the industry access control system, because there wasn't one.
Right. Was that proprietary, or are you working with a partner?
100% proprietary. 100% proprietary. Wow. Yeah, it took us 2 years to build. So it's a big. That was the biggest chunk of what we built, alongside with the guest mobile app. Everything else was like simpler, believe it or not. And that was the whole point of building the system, that just it's seamless and it works as a single thing, versus like, having to think about 50 different components. So for us, the demographic is someone who wants a turnkey service, someone who, this is a very interesting statistical. We run our own surveys, and out of over 3,000 operators, it sounds like I think it's the 80-20 rule, because more than 80% of operators answer that they spend over 80% of their time running their entire operation of their company. Operations and technology integrations. So basically spending their time on the day-to-day versus growing their business versus focusing on guest experience. Less than 20% of their time is dedicated to what really makes them money.
Right.
Which is like expanding the business, guest experience, taking care of their guests. Less than 20%. That's a issue. Well, people that there are on our platform, that number flips. It's 20% managing the day-to-day, 80% is dedicated expanding and focusing their guest experience.
With a company in technology and with the focus that you're doing and the hyper growth that you're seeing, where are your shortcomings? So I know like any good CEO is gonna, can look at their product and what they're putting out and know that there's something that they can improve on. When you're trying to go ahead and grab this market share, and there's a big market share for what you're trying to do, because that if we're looking at the 80-20, obviously more people are going to want to get to that 20% focused on tech and the 80% on growth. But how do you go ahead and convince these companies or these smaller or whatever size they are to go ahead and what do you need to do to improve to even grab more market share?
Well, I think number one right now, it's definitely our biggest challenge has been that it's such a new concept. The industry has just been used for so long that you need a PMS in order to run your entire operation, and you need to create these integrations. You need to be the one dealing with all the different vendors, negotiating your price and everything. So there's going to need to be a culture shift, and anything that needs a culture shift, it takes its time, and it's not easy. So that's definitely our biggest challenge, number one. But we realize that the best way to go about this is actually creating success stories. There's nothing more that we can do than like nothing more powerful than creating success stories. We realize that each customer usually brings us 2 to 3 other customers. It's a slow process because it builds up momentum slowly, but as it starts building up, it's compounding interest. So eventually it gets faster and faster and faster. And we're kind of on that like tipping point where we start seeing like really exponential numbers. And so I think we're very, very close to that. I don't think our system works 100% for everyone. I mean, probably if you're a Sander, you're not going to want my system. You're going to want to build your own.
Right.
But that's a problem for very small amount of hosts that they have that many units, right? Or if you're someone who needs very specific customization, it's something that we can work on it, but that's obviously not our target yet.
Right. So with that said, do you think there's like a sweet spot, like that you're like, where you're going after like a company that's 50 or smaller? Or I mean, where's the Jurny sweet spot today? And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to typecast you into that's your only thing. I'm just saying, is there like today, if you were to go ahead and say, we work best for, what would that be?
Well, I think as of today, so we're in the process of launching another product that, it's not our product. It's an evolution of our product. It's a different tier of our product where I think it's going to open up to a lot more like larger clients. But right now, the sweet spot is anywhere between, I'd say like 15, 20 units up to like about 200. That's kind of where we sit on. And I say like the ideal operator is like, 30 to 50 units. That person has yet to have built their entirety of their system, because very likely if you're above 100 units or 150 units, you've built somewhat of a system.
Right.
And so you having the idea of shifting away from that system becomes more challenging.
Yeah,
but
for sure. You have to prove there's a big ROI you have to prove to go ahead and change processes. Processes are hard to change, and teams are invested in that process. And to break them from that to go to something different, no, I get it.
Well, I think the interesting part too is and I don't want to gloss over culture change, right? We're talking culture change in an industry that's already in the midst of a culture change, right? Like it's a part of business, right? Businesses are slow to adopt to the new always, right? Look at the music industry, right? Look, how long did it take for them to adopt CD, like streaming and forever, right? Like, and you look at electric cars, it's still, we've had this technology forever. Like, the industry is just weaning itself. Anything from that to like new energy, like until you really know that you're going to be successful in making money and the industry can accept that as a whole, I think what you're doing is important, but also how do you spread that word in terms of like gaining momentum for this push? Because there's so much technology being pushed in this industry right now, right? The consolidation is going to come as it comes, right? Like it's, we think it should be coming faster than it probably will, but we also don't know what will happen. I think, you look at what happened in the past year with the pandemic and other things like that weeded some things out, right? Made people get more efficient, kind of started that push. How do we as an industry, who we know that what we're talking about now is something that property managers and a good swath of our industry want, how does that turn into this becoming the norm, this becoming the focus, this actually coming into fruition? Because, this is something I've heard about for as long as I've been in this space. I'm just starting to see it through you and through, and others who are focusing on this now, right? How do you speed this scale? How do you see speeding up this scale, both with what you're doing, but also with how you can influence the industry?
Well, from my standpoint of view, is we have a complete obsession over making the system better every day. I see a lot of tech companies building something and then just scaling it and stop building it.
Yeah.
Just they get in maintain mode. You see that with so many PMSs, so many tech platforms, that they just get to the point that they stay there. And all they think about is like just scaling the business. Well, I feel like that's because it's done for money. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, and obviously everybody does it also for the money. But I think like the entire culture in our company is a complete obsession over automations. Like every single person that is here, if they're not obsessed about that, they don't fit in. So for us, and we realize that this is going to be an ongoing process, and it's almost going to be infinite because there's no limit to how much you can automate. So for us, that's number one goal. Always be 2 to 3 steps ahead of everything else that is out there. I think people are just starting to know us. Some people, many people still don't know us. And I think that's step number one. And when people start to know us and they recognize us, who we are, they will know that we're always 3 steps ahead because we won't stop. And that's number one piece. The second piece, as I was saying before, is creating success stories. We have this is a perfect example. We have a couple of hotels in New York City that utilize our platform. And there's been other hoteliers that have seen exactly what we did and what the profit margins were on those hotels. And now there's like I cannot disclose the name of the company, but there's this large group, and they want to launch 100 hotels with Jurny platform. They just bought 3 hotels, and they have a fund, pretty large size fund, where they're going to be opening other 97.
That's amazing.
Wow.
My question for you though, are you work with both hotels and you work with both short-term rentals. Are these hotels operating like STR or are they operating like hotels?
So the beautiful thing is that we operated for a while both short-term rentals and hotels, and we realized that hotel industry has a lot to teach to the short-term rental industry, and the short-term rental industry has a lot to teach to the hotel industry. Number one, I think it's important if you have multi-units, you need to know that you can distribute your asset both as a short-term rental asset and as an hotel. And at the same time, if you're an hotel, and these are recommendations we make, if there's specific changes that you make, making your hotel more of a boutique hotel, you can do the same thing. You can advertise it both as an hotel and as a short-term rental hotel, right? Like a part hotel type of stay, even if you don't have a kitchen sometimes, if it's a boutique hotel. So we actually help hotels creating more distribution channels. At the same time, we do the exact same thing with short-term rentals. And our system was built to do both, because we realized that if your system is built only to do one thing, you're actually missing out on at least 30% of the game. So we built a system that we couldn't see out there that does both.
That's awesome. I was asking selfishly.
So was I. Because that's because it's interesting. I mean, John will tell you, like, it's we talk a lot of shit on here, but we talk about our experiences very clearly, and I struggle like with I run the boutique hotel I manage in Portland like a short-term rental, and it was an issue finding the right platforms, and there really isn't one. It's like finding the right tech stack to fit, right, or that I can make fit, or that I can make it work, because there wasn't a lot of options that could have the short-term rental aspects that I needed in tech and technology in my operating system. And then kind of, when I needed to be hotel, when I needed the hotel options or channels or things of that nature.
And let's be honest, Matteo, like the short-term rental things that you need are automations. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And I love that, that, I mean, I didn't mean to step on your toes, Teo, but the best with automations is, your company is focused on that. And as much as, there's a fight, or not a fight, but there's talk of like, there's so much tech and so many automations, it takes out that personal touch. I'm okay with that for the most part. I mean, me personally, Like I like to be able to talk to somebody if I need to talk to somebody on the phone, because sometimes shit goes down and it's what's not, and I'm an old dog. Sometimes the tech goes a little bit over my head. And I'm like, most of the time I'm pretty much in the mix here, but every now and then I'm like, really, that's how we're doing it now? That's awesome. But I got to figure this out. I got to adopt it. Well, I mean, good point for that is as a team, we went for the show coming up in Chicago and Hopper, we were going to digital business cards, and for me, that's like,
love it.
I'm like, what am I doing? Like this, it's just a little weird for me. And I'm setting up these pages but I'm super stoked about it. Right. I'm really kind of geeked up about how just the lead capture is going to be so much more, automated. I mean, again, back to automations, how can we go ahead and save a little bit of time and streamline it into, we're bringing it straight into Salesforce and it's going to be fantastic. But not everyone was on board. And, we had to go ahead and, there was talk of, internally saying, well, why don't we go get some print cards? And I'm like, well, if we do that, then it goes against like, how are we going to go ahead and actually see true analytics of, is this, again, you're talking needing, case studies specifically. Like that's how you're going to grow, Luca. Like you're growing with case studies, and that's how you're proving your point through case studies. And you can't have case studies if you're like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It doesn't work. You gotta fully adopt. And
I agree. Yes. Him saying, proving it through success. That's the plan. Like at the end of the day, when you have and you're going to learn that, right? One way or the other, right? Like if you're actually doing it through the betas, and if you're seeing you're not working, you can actually fix it in real time in that progression. I think, that's going to be the future too. And one thing that I love that you said too, is like, it doesn't get stale. Like, I think companies get so focused on scaling and maintaining what they have that they don't get to grow. They don't focus on the growth or real growth that customers actually want, and that will help them be successful in their business. And I think that mentality is not widely seen in our business. So it's actually good to hear that point that, hey, look, it's, we're not just selling you this today, but we're going to sell this and make it better as it goes forward. As a manager, that's great to hear for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And being a manager, ex-manager myself, I fully understand that. And that's, and I was like, I need to build a company that I'm going to be the first customer first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
I don't want to say I build it almost out of frustration, but that oftentimes that happens that way, right? Like you're okay, this industry cannot offer me what I've been looking for. And I mean, yes, it is complicated what I've been asking for, but it's also some of the things I'm asking they're not complicated, and they're pretty easy to give. Like, I just feel like often it happens in many companies. I mean, just not to talk necessarily bad about companies, but we can see it with some OTAs that don't care about their hosts. And I'm like,
right.
You're one without your hosts.
For sure.
What are you doing?
Let's talk all day about this. I'm all about it.
Well, yeah, there's oof, bro. I'm gonna leave that right there.
No, it's important, and I think that you're, and it's fine to go ahead and that's the cool thing about this podcast is the no bullshit short-term rental podcast for a reason. We're allowed to go ahead and talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about, and your opinion, and we're there. I want to talk though where you're going. You're talking about strategic growth. You're talking about scaling. You're talking about automations. Paul Stevens, our friend at Short-Term Rentals with a Z, went ahead and did an article on your continued your strategic growth with Rouhani appointment. Let's talk about bringing Rouhani aboard and what's that doing for you and your company, and where do you see that relationship and that partnership going?
Definitely. So I think it's important that if you want to scale in an industry, you bring people that have a lot of experience in that industry. And Rouhani, been executive, Dream Hotel, SBE, then went to Accor when it was acquired by Accor acquired SBE. It's been in multiple different hotels, scaled different hotels in different cities, has tremendous amount of experience on what these larger hotels are looking for. I think that speaks to our vision of eventually where our target right now is smaller operators, and eventually our target wants to be, not our target needs to be larger operator, but we also want to be able to create a solution that is adaptable by large operators as well. And that's one piece. And the second piece is really bringing that industry expertise of someone who's run and seen operation of, like, 30, 40 hotels and thousands of employees, and see what their challenges were, right? Because if you know what their challenges are going to be when you have such a large company, you know how to prevent some of the challenges early on, right at the beginning.
Right.
For other operators, right? That's really our main focus. As I said, I like to look several steps ahead because it helps me. Maybe you don't see the results today, but it helps me prevent mistakes that I'm going to be making in the future. And if you have a system that allows operator to scale from 20 units to 10,000 units, that's ideal. And you don't have to move to a different system, but it cannot get more ideal than that.
Well, and as a company and as a founder, and you've been doing, and as an entrepreneur, there's different stages where companies plateau, where you reach a certain benchmark, and then it's really hard to go ahead, no matter what you do, to go ahead and get to that next benchmark, whether it's a 100%. Revenue goal, whether it's, a scale, whatever it is. You hear a lot about, revenue, like revenue tiers, where like, hey, we've been stuck at this 10 million a year tier forever, and we're having a hard time breaking out of it. Yeah. And bringing someone with a track record like that truly can come in head and help and guide and really put the focus in there, because it's building blocks. It's getting that foundation. Like, anyone with a vision can get to a certain spot, but then no matter how big your vision is, sometimes you just need some different resources to go ahead and look at it a little bit differently, maybe an outside the box kind of view, to get to that next step. And I think it's super smart. What's next for you? I know we've talked big plans, you know where you want to go, but I know you got some things on the horizon that you can't necessarily, put out today, but what's the next big play for Jurny? Are we going to go ahead and see you at any upcoming shows, or what's the big splat? Where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, this year is the year we want to start to get out there, right? And it's the years we want to start people to start knowing us. We've been kind of under the radar until basically January. That's when we started really like talking more about what we're doing and what we're working on, because we want to make sure we were at a specific stage. We could raise a decent amount of capital, but our goal is to raise more, really scaling this as big as it can get. And like you said, there's different, like when you're at different stages of the business, you have different needs. Our goal is to have different tiers for depending on which stage you are in. So for example, we layer on top of our tech stack services like 24/7 customer support, an accounting team. So 24/7 customer support is like as a virtual front desk, basically, for a hotel. So if you're smaller operators and you don't have, you cannot hire 7 people to do that 24/7 coverage for both inquiries and support. Mm-hmm. We'll help you with that. Pricing, same thing. Like, we can give you a pricing team and stuff like that. But at the same time, we're developing more and more software so that when people want to be independent and just build their entire teams around that system, they can also do that. So that's more where we're going towards to, more and more software, and make our system applicable for different stages of different businesses. Our vision is, well, I was actually talking to hotel operators the other day that totally agree with this vision, is that in 10 years from now, the entire industry, I say 90 to 95% of the industry is going to be fully automated. Whether it's with us or not, it will be there. And we want to be the largest, hopefully, catalyst that allows the industry to get there. That's our goal.
Awesome. I absolutely love that. It's a grand goal. And but I think you're definitely on the right track to go ahead and get there. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. let's hope so. Let's see what happens in 10 years.
Well,
Definitely.
we'll have to have you back in 10 years, and we'll have you on the show. And we'll see where you're at. No, truly, in all actuality, we'd love to have you back on, even 6 months in a year, kind of see talk about your growth, see how you're scaling, see where you're going.
We'd love to be back.
Awesome. Are you gonna? I know I asked and you didn't answer, and it's not a big deal. Is Jurny gonna have a presence at any of the upcoming trade shows at all, or are you still doing more of a word of mouth kind of thing?
No, we are going to be at VRMA, the one in Chicago, and then definitely the one in Vegas. Those are the two, I think, main trade shows that we're going to be doing this year. Definitely the one in Vegas. We're also planning a big party with some of our partners as well. So you're definitely going to see us there.
Nice. Well, we'll be at both. We'll be in Chicago, and it's just like a week and a half now. I'm super, maybe 2 weeks. I'm super looking forward to it. We'll definitely, let's catch up while we're there. And thanks for coming to the show, Luca. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.